This video is sponsored by Hunter Engineering. Visit hunter.com for more information.
From the Aishan Broadcast Studio, it's What's Treading, brought to you by Hunter Engineering.
Hello and welcome to What's Treading. My name is David, and today we are speaking with Continental's Barry Terzaken. He is Continental Product Manager. Let's get to the interview. Barry, thank you so much for joining us here today. We're talking about something really, really fun. We're talking about the beginnings of the tread pattern, which is, it kind of blows my mind to even consider the beginning of the tread pattern. When I think of a tire, the tread just comes right along with it. But there was, believe it or not, a time when tires were produced and tread wasn't given any thought whatsoever. There just was not a tread that would go on that tire. Continental, of course, is celebrating its 120th anniversary of, developing the tread pattern. With that said, how revolutionary of an idea was this when, this was produced 1905?
Yes, it was really an astounding change. You have to go back a little bit farther because you're talking about the dawn of private mobility in vehicles at this time. And, a lot of the vehicles were pulled by something, whether it's, horses or animals, and the vehicle was just kind of dragged along behind it. And it wasn't until, the late 1890s where there were actually things that were considered automobiles that were not just onesies. There were a few vehicles that were introduced in the beginning with Carl Benz and all of that. Mm-hmm. And this is where there were more needs than just having a smooth rolling thing to be pulled behind an animal. But now this had to actually provide steering and traction. And this is where Continental came in. We were developing tires for these new vehicles, and there were needs. There were needs for traction. There was needs for braking and steering ability. And in 1904 at the Frankfurt Auto Show, this is the first introduction of an actual hand-carved tread pattern, the first introduction of hand-carved tread patterns to be shown.
And do we have any idea of what that first tread pattern was? I mean, how would we define it? Would we say it was symmetrical or directional? What was the intended purpose of that tread pattern?
It was that pattern was very, very simple. It had circumferential grooves in it that just went around the tire, and this helped for steering. At that time, again, it was just a smooth tire, and if you got in the mud or if you were on a wet surface, you just had a smooth tire with no edges to grab. So it was a very rudimentary, basic pattern at the time, and things have evolved quite a bit since then, as you can imagine, that you see in any tire on a passenger car these days.
Oh, absolutely, and of course, you mentioned that first pattern was hand carved. Was that the case for a while? I mean, when they determined, okay, this has some purpose, this has some legs under it where people are going to want this tread pattern in their tire, did they continue to hand carve those tires in order to produce that pattern, or was there any sort of automation involved?
Well, actually, they hand carved and experimented, and we do so to this day. It's a good way to try out new patterns without having to mold them. But really, soon thereafter, after that tire was first hand carved, then we started to get into a production mode where the tires were actually molded with a regular pattern in it. And they also introduced other things like grooves going across the tire instead of just circumferential grooves.
Very interesting.
Yes.
And how do modern tires, of course, there are all kinds of different tread patterns that are produced today. depending on application or just what the driver is looking for performance-wise in their tires and what they want their vehicle to do. How are modern tires, how do they compare to those older tread patterns that were first being thought up and designed back in the early 1900s?
Yeah, a lot of research and technology has gone into it, a lot of discoveries along the way. Back then it was very rudimentary. They saw the advantages, and then they started really digging down, experimenting, and seeing what worked. Today you have a lot of specialization. You have specialization in tire segments. So you may have a ultra high performance summer tire that's really designed for ultimate grip and cornering ability for high performance cars with a lot of horsepower. You have off-road tires that have a lot of off-road loose surface, maybe mud grip. You have winter tires, you have all-season tires. So there's a lot of specialty in tires. And then there's also different types of tires within that. You have asymmetric tires where the pattern on the outside shoulder is different than the inner shoulder and the center of the tire. Often this is done with ultra high performance tires where you need cornering ability. So the outside of the tire is very, very centered around giving you cornering grip, big blocks that give you maximum grip, where the center and inner parts of the tire will give you grip on rainy conditions and allow the tire to not hydroplane. So there's a lot of specialty. A normal tire that you see on a passenger car is a symmetric tire. Big advantage there, you can rotate the tires. There is no inside, there is no outside, there is no front, there is no back. So you can absolutely and easily rotate your tires to any position. An asymmetric tire, there is an outside and there is an inside design to it, purposeful. And then there's also directional tires. That's the third type of tire, where sometimes you'll see it's like a V shape or different patterns to it. It's reflected about the center line, but it is some type of directional pattern. And what this often does, it's used for superior grip in winter and wet surfaces. It helps direct water, it helps channel the snow and give you grip in snowy conditions. So it's very interesting, the specialization of the types of patterns, and then, like I said, the vast number of segments for different types of vehicles. There's a lot of specialty there as well.
How much experimentation is Continental doing? For example, you had mentioned asymmetrical is often associated with the UHP tire, but how much experimentation are you doing where, hey, what if we tried a directional pattern on this tire? How would that work? Are you doing a lot of that kind of behind the scenes?
We do. We experiment all the time. We look at different possibilities within the segments. Is this something that can be useful in this segment? Typically, you don't see an asymmetric or a directional pattern for like a mud terrain tire. But it's not to say that we haven't tried it or looked to see if there are advantages to it. We do a lot of, like I said, still to this day, hand carving, but a lot of that sometimes is assisted through engineering and using artificial intelligence. So we can do a lot of simulation on the computer. We have a lot of algorithms that really tell us what this type of pattern or what that type of angle or what this size block will actually yield in the real world, at least as a prediction. And then we can go and hand carve a tire and test that hypothesis and see how it works out.
That's really interesting.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
So if we can dig into that just a little bit on the simulation and the AI aspect, how often are you, I guess a better way to phrase it is, how important is that digital testing aspect to the development of a tire overall? I mean, are you really depending on that digital side of things to inform you as to what direction you need to take the design of that tire to meet your end goal?
Yes, we rely on the digital aspect quite a bit. Again, we have a lot of engineering know-how. We'll take a look at the aesthetics of the tire that we'd like to achieve, and then we will put that model into a computer and say, hey, that's all well and good, but if you just make this angle just a little bit different, it will perform much better, or the pattern will be a lot quieter. And we still get the visible aesthetics that we want and achieve the engineering goals. So it really is very important for us to constantly upgrade our models and our artificial intelligence and algorithms, which we constantly do. We constantly loop through these cycles of simulation, testing, and then back again.
I'm fascinated by the idea of trying to balance the aesthetics of the tire versus the engineering goals of the tire. How much are you doing that where, in a sense, maybe the program is telling you, hey, skew this a little bit this way and we're going to get much better performance, but then on the other side you say, yeah, but it looks so cool this way. I mean, how do you decide what the line is?
Yeah, it's very interesting. Perception sometimes is reality as to the actual engineering performance, but not always. So it's very important to visually have a tire that looks the part, so an end consumer can look at this and say, yeah, I can see how that works. That makes a lot of sense. And maybe it looks cool and all that as well. That's important. You want to have a pleasing and exciting product. And sometimes that does exactly follow the technical performance of the tires, but sometimes not. And sometimes there are very nice designs that you'll see out there, maybe on prototype cars, and they look very, very super modern, but they're really not so practical in reality, and the performance may not be that good. So there is a constant balance between the two of what really performs and what looks right. But again, you have to look at the segment and ensure that you have something that fits the aesthetic of that. A mud terrain tire has to look big and chunky and beefy, and with big open areas to grip and drag you through the mud and get you where you need to go in the wildest of conditions, right? So you want to see that in the pattern, but you have to make sure that it actually does that as well. And on the other side, you get a summer tire that's ultra high performance, and somebody goes out on a track on the weekend, and they want to have a tire that really performs and gets them around the track and around the corners in the fastest amount of time. And they want the tire to look that way, and usually they probably want it to look pretty cool too. In all those cases, especially the enthusiast segments, people want a good-looking tire, and we strive to do that to make the two meet up properly.
Yeah. Well, I would say you do a fantastic job at that. And, I'm sure a lot of that has to do with the fact that, Continental has something like 1,700 patents that have to do strictly with tread design, which kind of blows my mind. When you look at tread, yeah, I can point out a few different things, and, I can name a few of those aspects on the tread, but I cannot even imagine how there could be 1,700 patents to have for tread design. So obviously, Continental is taking tread design incredibly seriously. You can see it from that alone. What are some of the things that your engineers are working to improve when it comes to the tread design?
Yes, we're always looking at innovation. The large number of patents is amazing. But there's so much in the minor details of a pattern sometime If you look at a lot of our all-season tires, down in the grooves, we have little teeth, and they're called traction grooves, and they're little teeth down in the bottom of the groove. And from a normal tire, the tire touches the ground, the surface of the tire touches the surface of the asphalt. But you think about maybe in the snow, well, you have this surface that compacts and maybe squishes up into the grooves. And if you have a smooth groove inside the tire, well, that snow just kind of goes up into that groove and it can slide along it very easily. But if you have little teeth inside that groove, now all of a sudden the groove is giving you traction in a condition where you really need traction, where snow is slippery. So having additional traction in a groove, that's really important. So little things that on the surface you may not realize, these are important features. Something else very interesting on our performance tires, we have tuned performance indicators. And we have a little D, a little W, and a little S on the tire. And as the tire wears down, the tire is no more optimized for snow, wet, or dry. It goes in that sequence. Obviously, as a tire wears down, it's going to get less and less traction, especially for winter when it's not as soft and all the little features are very long and still there. As it wears down, it's no longer quite optimized for that. So the S will go away. Then the same thing for the wet. When the wet performance is no longer optimized, you'll no longer see the W in the tread. So little things like this, these are innovations in the pattern that work and patentable ideas that help the end consumer.
It's truly fascinating to me, everything that goes into a tire when you're out there and you're looking at the rack of tires and you see each individual tire and all the engineering that goes into each individual one to make it perform the way that it's supposed to. We haven't even talked about compounding. We haven't talked about size. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And obviously the tread plays a huge part in that. So thanks to Continental for getting us to this point and actually developing the first tread pattern. I think that's pretty amazing.
Well, we're happy to be a part of the history of it and to continue on with the innovation.
Fantastic. Well, Barry, thank you so much for this really enlightening conversation. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Take care. All right, fascinating stuff. It's hard to imagine there was a time when a tire existed and tread patterns didn't. So 120 years of innovation later, and obviously we've come a very, very long way, and it's all thanks to that very first tread pattern. So thank you for joining us here today. Really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time.